I'm here today to speak out along with my colleagues for the women and children, in our nation who would be gravely harmed by the House budget, H.R. 1. Mr. President, I hope we get the chance to vote on that House budget, because I think the American people need to look at what's going on with my Republican friends who are in charge of the House of Representatives. Now, we all know we need to reduce the deficit, but we also know the right way to do it. We did it with President Bill Clinton. We did it with a mix of revenue raisers and smart cuts, plus investments that paid dividends. We did it in such a way that we actually had a surplus at the end of the day and 23 million new jobs. When George W. Bush took over, the surplus was gone and the job creation was gone. Compared to 23 million new jobs under President George W. Bush, there were 1 million jobs created, and he left us with soaring deficits and the deepest recession since the Great Depression. That's a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and we're about to write the end. And I will be honest, I will stand with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who are willing to fight for the people of this country and the middle class of this country. The budget bill, H.R. 1, would destroy, according to leading experts, 700,000 jobs, hurt our families, and to me, this is my personal opinion, it looks like a political vendetta against women, children, and a healthy environment that they rely on, because they need to breathe clean air and drink clean water, and all this is on the chopping block there. Let's look at Title 10 Family Planning Program. What does Title 10 do? And it's zeroed out. Is that right? Zeroed out in H.R. 1, the House Republican budget. Title 10 provides contraceptive services for 4.7 million women nationwide, almost 5 million women nationwide. It helps prevent almost 1 million unintended pregnancies. Now, here are my friends on the other side joining with us. We're all saying, let us make sure that we cut down on the number of abortions. What is one proven way to do it? Contraception. They would prevent almost 1 million people from getting that kind of a service. Now, in my state, Planned Parenthood operates 800 healthcare centers nationwide. I know my colleague is very aware of health centers. They provide, in my state, 720,000 breast exams nationwide, 730,000 Pap tests. What does this mean? Mr. President, hundreds of thousands of women just in California and millions nationwide go to Planned Parenthood to make sure that they don't have breast cancer, that they don't have cervical cancer, that they don't have an STD, that they don't have AIDS, and if, God forbid, it turns out they have any of these things, they can get cured. Without this, they're in deep trouble. Everyone in America knows early detection is where it's at. So if I say the impact of the Republican budget will mean more abortions, more breast cancer, more cervical cancer, more STDs, more AIDS that's untreated, that is not hyperbole. That is not an overstatement. That is a fact. So, I want to talk about Nicole Sandoval from Pasadena, California. She wrote to me and she said, please support Planned Parenthood because, by the way, our colleagues eliminate Planned Parenthood getting $1 of federal funding. What are they implying? That the funds are used for abortion services. That is an outright lie. Since the 70s, the Hyde Amendment has said not 1 penny of federal funds may be used for abortion, providing abortions. So they know that's an untruth, and yet they let it hang out there. The money Planned Parenthood gets is for just what I said. cancer prevention, sexually transmitted disease prevention, and contraception. So what does Nicole say? She was 23 years old, she had no insurance. Planned Parenthood was there for her and caught her cervical cancer early enough to save her life. So I stand with Nicole Sandoval. I'm here to stand with Leah Gerard from Torrance. She wrote to me about a horrific incident in which a member of her family was raped. This young woman went to Planned Parenthood. She didn't know where else to go. She wrote and said, Planned Parenthood directed her family member to the local hospital, got in touch with the local sexual assault nurse examiner, contacted her family to come and take care of her. Had she not gone to Planned Parenthood, she writes, would not have survived that experience. And I stand with Leah and her family and with Planned Parenthood. Zero out Planned Parenthood? Where are we going? We're certainly not going forwards. We're going back. I remember the years that George Herbert Walker Bush was on the board of Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a bipartisan operation. If you walk in the door, they don't ask whether you're a Democrat, Republican, registered vote, who you are. You get taken care of. And the community is healthier. Now, in the remaining time, I want to talk about the attack on the environment that women and children have to live in. The attack on the Environmental Protection Agency is the biggest cut of any agency in the federal government by our Republican friends over in the House. 70% of the American people say the Environmental Protection Agency should do its job. 69% think EPA should update Clean Air Act standards with stricter air pollution limits. 68% believe Congress should not stop EPA from enforcing Clean Air Act standards. 69% believe that EPA scientists, not Congress, should set pollution standards. Look at this. Mr. President, in this tough time when the country's divided, almost 70% of our people say, leave EPA alone. But oh no, our Republican friends whacked that agency by 1/3, billions of dollars. And not only that, instruct that agency with riders telling them they can't enforce air pollution standards for soot. And we know what happens when you're exposed to soot. And we're looking at other exposures as well. Small particulate matter, which gets in our lungs, is lodged in our lungs. They say we can't look at cement manufacturing and go after the mercury that comes out of those firms. The mercury, arsenic. Do we think the American people want dirtier air? Is that what the election was about? I would challenge. I just came out of a tough election. And I have to tell you, not one person ever came up to me and said, please, I want more soot. I really need more smog. It's missing out of my life. And oh my God, when my kid drinks water out of the tap, I want them to get contaminated. Forget it. That's not what the election was about. The election was about jobs, jobs, jobs. Okay, let's look at a child that pays the price when the air is dirty. Our children, their exposure to air pollution causes asthma attacks, lost days of school, emergency room visits, and for the older people, heart attack, stroke, cancer, and premature death. According to the American Lung Association, we have another beautiful picture of a child there that I'd like to show. Asthma is one of the most common chronic disorders in children. It affects 7 million children. Here's another beautiful baby here. I'm showing you this as a grandma. Look at this picture. Look at this face. Look at those eyes. I want to say to our friends in the House, what are you doing? You are throwing women and children under the bus. You're throwing the middle class under the bus. And I, for one, I'm going to tell the truth. During my campaign, the press would always say, what are you going to do to win? Such a terrible year for Democrats. How are you going to win? I said, I have a secret plan. They said, what is it? But I'm going to tell the truth. You know, I'm going to just lay it out there. Look, the truth is the EPA released a new report. It was asked for by Congress. Congress demanded to know the benefit of clean air law. You know what it did? They said in 2010 alone, 160,000 cases of premature deaths were avoided. Can you believe it? And they want to turn all of this back. The American Lung Association says H.R. 1 is toxic to the public health. Toxic to the public health. And they say it would result in millions of Americans, including kids and seniors and people with chronic diseases such as asthma, being forced to breathe air that's unhealthy. And it can cause asthma attacks, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and shorten lives. So I'm just going to say this to my Republican friends. You know who signed the Clean Air Act? A Republican president. A Republican president. You know who set up the EPA? A Republican president, Richard Nixon. What are you doing over there? I already said George Herbert W. Bush, Walker Bush, was on the board of Planned Parenthood. Richard Nixon signed the Clean Air Act. So they don't seem to either have a sense of history or they have moved so far away from some of the proud traditions of their party that they have lost total touch. So in closing, let me say this. We're going to have to stop this war against women. We're going to have to stop this war against children. We're going to have to stop this war against the environment. We're going to come forward with deficit reduction that will equal what they do, but we will do it in a way that doesn't hurt job creation and that doesn't hurt our kids, our families, and the environment we all depend upon.